Hey there guys, and welcome back to Gwent Academy. This video is just going to be a couple tips and tricks and a couple pointers for free to play and maybe some things you guys didn't know. One thing about the graveyard I didn't know for a while, but for the first part we'll get to is how the blacklisting works. When you throw a card back, you can't draw a card with the same name again. So you can use that to your advantage. Now that doesn't work for something like Crones, because Crones all count as different cards, even though they all have Crone in the beginning. For like other cards like Foglet, Impenetrable Fog, Griffin, you wouldn't draw another Griffin if you mailed it back. So if you have something in your hand like this and you know you don't want to see any Foglets left, any more Foglets, and say you didn't want any more Griffins, and you only drew one Foglet but you drew two Griffins, it's better to throw the Foglet back first because you have, if you throw the Griffin back first, there's still two more Foglets in your deck that you could draw. And if you throw the Foglet back first, then you have less chance of drawing a Griffin because there's only one more in your deck. So you always want to like try to figure out how you want to blacklist your stuff. Usually stuff that you don't want in your starting hand and you only get one of them in your starting hand before the mulligan, you want to throw them back first. Because you could, like, if I threw this Griffin back right now, I could get another Foglet. Then I'd have two Foglets in my hand and I'd have to throw them back, both back, and use my next two mulligans on them. So, like, throw my Foglet back, then throw my Griffin back. Now I won't see any more Foglets or Griffins. And then I can throw Fog back last and I won't see any more Fogs. But that's about it for tip with the second thing. This is something that I didn't know actually for a long time because I just figured there wasn't a way to do it yet in the beta or something. But if you're facing like a mirror match and you're running something like Griffins or anything that interacts with both of your graveyards, and you go to play it like this, you can't really tell, okay, is this my Crones or is this his Crones? And this really matters for like mirror matchups against Foglets and stuff when you want to move a Foglet to your side instead of to your opponent's graveyard so you can resurrect it. But I mean, they both have blue borders, so you can actually check if you press R2, see on the right how that border is red. That means it's my enemy's Crone. Then if you hold R2 or whatever the hide card button is for you on what you're playing on, and then yours is blue. So you can actually check the cards that way and see whose graveyard that is. That's his Necker. That's his Weaves. That's my Necker. So that's something that actually, I just thought there wasn't a way to do it, but there actually is, which is really nice. So I hope that one helps someone out like it did me. Next up is how to min-max your card collection, because if you know a patch is coming up soon, like we have a patch coming up soon now, and you're okay with the cards you have right now, if you have a couple decent decks or you have a deck that you really like and you don't really need to get any more cards, you can actually save up all your ore until that patch comes. If you can actually be patient and do that. I can't do that, but if you can, you can save up all your ore for the next patch, and then when the patch hits and they nerf a card and you get full value when they nerf a card, like, should load it up my collection first, there we go. Clear first light, if it's before the patch you're only going to get 10 scraps for it, but if they nerfed it and after the patch you'd get 30 scraps for it. So you save up all your ore, then you buy the kegs when that patch happens and you know everything that's being nerfed, and you choose for your fifth card that you actually get to choose. You can choose a card that's been nerfed, and you keep choosing cards that's been nerfed with all your ore, and then mill those and you can craft them into whatever card you want because you're going to get full value out of them. So it's just a way to min-max if you're actually patient and can hold on to your ore like that. Next I got thing is, once you hit rank 10, you want to start playing ranked. I mean level 10. You want to start playing ranked right away. Because you're going to get, like, up to rank 10, you can't even lose points for losing, so you can do nothing but climb, and it's not that hard because everybody's running beginner decks then, and you'll get 7 kegs for free by hitting rank 10, and a decent amount of scraps. I mean, it's 275 scraps, which, and some meteorite power, that's only for premium cards though, but I mean for getting your collection when you're first starting, yeah, you want to play ranked. I mean, you could even get up to like rank 16, 17 easy with minimum cards because everyone else is using them, and up to that point, you pretty much need to lose two and win one to progress because they've changed around the MMR system, and it actually makes it easier for people to rank up if you just play, and that'll give you a lot more kegs if you get up to there. Getting to rank 18, I mean, rank 17 is pretty much where it starts. You start losing as much as you gain, or gaining a little bit more than you lose. So that's where it starts to get a little bit harder. Then up at like rank 19 and rank 20, you lose more than you win. So you have to win pretty much two and then lose one, and you'll actually progress. But if you lose one, win one, you're not going to get anywhere. You'll actually fall down in rank. So up until rank 17, though, rank 17, pretty much rank 18, you can progress pretty easily, and you'll get a lot of kegs out of that. So don't be scared of rank. Just go right into it when you're ranked level 10, once you can access it and grind it out for those free packs. And plus, at the end of the season, you're going to get however many kegs for your ranking. I mean, even just like hitting rank 12 or rank 10, you get 9 kegs at rank 10 and 450 scraps. 450 scraps is enough to make 2 epics. So, I mean, you could choose 2 epics out of that and get 9 free packs just for hitting rank 10, which you can't lose any points, so you just gotta play a couple games to hit rank 10. Next we got is go into settings in general, and you can actually mute your opponent's taunts from here for like ever, because some people will sit there and spam taunts just to put you on tilt so you play worse and they have an easier chance of winning. I mean, it doesn't bother me so much, I'm used to it, but if it does bother you, you can just go to your settings right here and mute them, so even if you forget at the beginning of the game and they start spam taunting you, won't matter, because if you put it up right here, you're never going to hear them, any of their taunts or anything that they say. So that's just a quick easy tip for if people taunting you put you on tilt. Next thing is just like, it's not so much a tip or anything, it's just if you're playing casuals and you both run one around and then it's round 3 and say they have no cards left and you have a way to tie the game, you should just tie the game and pass. I mean, it's that way you both get the win. You already know if you won or not, so, I mean, there's no point in taking the win because you don't gain anything, you just take away a win from your opponent. So usually in casuals, if I have a way to tie the game, I do, and then I just pass. We both get the win. Next, we got how to play your deck. I mean, if you're not running a combo deck that like plays the same thing every turn, like Reaver Hunters, you play your Katawani Sergeants every round, and then you play Tamari Infantrymen or whatever. If you're not playing a combo deck or something like that, it's dedicated to making the same plays every game, then the way you usually want to play your deck is try to keep yourself in contest with your opponent's power, so they can't just pass on you and then you lose card advantage, but also play like your least important cards first and then work your way up to your more important cards so you can have your better cards in the next 2 rounds, because usually your opponent will burn a lot of their good cards or all their good cards round 1, and then if you still have your good cards or decent cards, round 2 and round 3 will be way easier for you because they don't have anything left to respond since they burnt it all in the first round. So don't be so afraid of losing round 1. I mean, round 1 is important, but if you can set yourself up in a better position for the next 2 rounds, then it's worth it to lose round 1. And speaking of losing round 1, never put yourself 3 cards behind to win round 1. It's not worth it. Not even if you have like Adrenaline Rush and you get to put it on a 30 power guy for carryover. You never want to go 3 cards down to win a round. Maybe 2 in some cases. I mean, that's risky, really risky, but never 3. Because with 2, you can just drive past in the next round, and then you'll only be 1 card down in the last round. So that one can be not so bad, but you got to be careful with it. Next thing is premium cards. Like, if you want premium cards, I suggest, let me turn this to premium only and owned. There we go. Yeah, I suggest crafting gold ones first because you're more likely to get like all these commons and rares and stuff I've pulled from packs. I haven't crafted a single one except for these golds. I made all these golds from meteorite dust. And so yeah, go for your golds first because you're way less likely to get a gold premium than any of these other cards if you're really caring about collecting premiums. Speaking about the way the card collection works, use this. I mean, it's for PS4, it's options, but you can actually see down at the bottom there, it'll say filters. This is way useful. This being able to change what card type of cards you want to see, because usually when I get new cards and I have all these markers up at the top that show me that I have new cards. Instead of scrolling through my whole collection, I just go to ownership new and it'll show me all my new cards, and then I can just flip through them so it doesn't show up on the top, because I really hate having those numbers up there saying that I have new stuff when I already know what it is. Just a quick way to scroll through your new cards so that doesn't happen if you have a little OCD about that like me. Next thing is card kegs. I don't know how useful this will be to anybody really, but card kegs, when you buy them, they're predetermined. So even if you get disconnected while opening it or something, it's already decided when you buy the keg what cards are in the keg. So I mean, if you know a new set of cards is coming out or a new bunch of cards, like there's 20 new cards coming out soon, and you're trying to save war for them, don't buy the kegs because they won't have any of the new cards in them when you open them, since you bought them when only the old cards were in there. Buy them once the new cards come out and save your ore till then, and then you'll actually have a chance of getting the new cards. If you guys made it this far, remember to like and subscribe. And from now on, I mean, I'm pretty much just going to tell people what each of the little effects at the bottom are, because there's a lot of them. So, I mean, if you already know those, you can just stop watching now. Probably won't be any help for you, but this will be the last thing in this video. Is explaining what all the effects mean. So, let's see. First up, we got deploy, which obviously means that it does something when you play it. This does mean that if you resurrect it with something like resurrect or another card, it will activate its deploy ability again, because resurrecting does count as deploying. Next up we got veteran. Veteran 1, I mean, that's all that's in the game right now is veteran 1. I don't know if they're going to add veteran 2 or 3 later on, but veteran means that at the beginning of every round, whether it's in your deck, hand, or graveyard, that card's going to strengthen itself by 1, or whatever the veteran number is. Because if they put veteran 1, I'm guessing they're going to make veteran 2 cards and stuff. So that just means that it strengthens itself by 1 each round. Next, we got cursed or doomed. Like this card right here, Uldark, it'll have this red eye and this like circular thing around it. These cards, you got to be careful because this is like a trap for a newer player. These cards definitely are. That means that it goes to your opponent's side of the field, and then you get to do its effect. Because I actually remember back when I didn't know the game very well, on Monsters, I saw this card and I should have known it was too good to be true, the Frightener. I spent a lot of my scraps on this Frightener, because it says move a unit to another row on this side of this row and draw the top card from your deck. I was thinking that didn't sound right, but turns out it's doomed, which means it's going to go to your opponent's side of the field when you play it. They're still really good cards when you figure out the game more. These spy or whatever disloyal units are called cards. But just know that if it has that red eye in the circle, that means it's going to go to your opponent's side of the field and not yours. And this succubus you have the choice. You can play her on your side of the field for 5 power, or you can put it on your opponent's side of the field for its effect. Next up we got whenever you mulligan. Mulligan means like you put a card back in your deck to draw another card. That's what mulligan means in case people didn't know. And then we got resilience. Deploy, you gain resilience. That means that at the end of the round, whether you win or lose, that card's going to stay on your side of the field for the next round if it has resilience. Next, we got ambush. This means that it comes out onto the field face down. So like there is a deck which I want to show people, but I do not have the cards for it right now. It's called Bamboozled, and it revolves around this card, the Elf Ambush card, because whenever your opponent passes, turn this unit over and boost 2 units on each side by 2. Since it's face down, it can't be affected by anything like weather, scorch. It doesn't even count towards your power value. So you boost it up with all the hand boosting cards that this class has, like Redden Dragoon. At every turn at the start of your turn, boost a random loyal unit in your hand by 1. Hawker support, deploy boost a unit in your hand by 3. So usually they boost one of their ambush cards, like this one is the most common one, and get her way high power, and then they'll throw her back into her deck and use something like Zangrim to play a bronze or silver ambush card from your deck. She'll be face down. You won't know what its power is. It could be like a 16 power card that's going to boost everything on its side by 2. So you'll pass thinking you're in the lead, and then she'll flip over and she'll be way more power than what you thought she was, and you'll lose. So that's the whole point of the deck. So watch out for that when your opponent's playing hand boosting and ambush cards. Next we got Fresh Crew. Fresh Crew, increase the damage dealt by 1. There's a couple cards like this in this class, like basically all the machine cards. Fresh Crew, repeat the deploy ability. That means that if one of your cards have Crewman 1 on one of the sides, it activates that effect, the Fresh Crew effect, as long as they have Crewman. Now, you can put a Crewman on either side and then play it in the middle, and it'll actually activate that Fresh Crew effect twice. So with this one, if you played in between 2 Fresh Crew cards, you damage an enemy and up to 3 other random enemies with the same power by 1, and you do that effect 3 times. But if you say you have like 2 Fresh Crewmen on one side and 2 Fresh Crewmen on the other side, and you played in the middle, you're still only going to get to do it 3 times, because it has to be on the sides of it for that effect to work, not all the ones that are in the same row. Next we got Boost and Strengthen. There is a big difference. Boost means that it's temporary power for the round or until your opponent like plays Marjoram or something and resets it. That's what boosting is. But Strengthen is permanent power, meaning no matter what, it's going to always have that power. Whether they reset it, it goes to your graveyard, it goes back into your deck, it's always going to be strengthened by whatever you strengthen it by. And speaking of strengthening, there's regressing. If you look under Light Longship where it says machine and regressing, that means that even though this thing strengthens itself, it's going to regress back to its original power. So even if you make it like a 20 power card, at the end of the turn when it goes in your graveyard, it's going to be a 5 again. But until then, it's safe from things that take away boosted power or reset units. It'll still stay at 20. Next we got Retaliation. Retaliation, transform into a Raging Bear. That means that if it takes any damage, you can even damage it yourself with cards like, there it is, the Clan Brokvar Archer, damage 3 units by 1. That means that once it gets hurt, it's going to transform into 11 power bear. Next, we got Bond. Bond means that if you play the card, it's going to do its effect to all other ones with the same name in your hand, deck, or hand, deck, or field. So deploy or bomb, boost all Reaver Hunters in your hand, deck, and on your side of the board by 1. So if you play 1 Reaver Hunter, it's going to boost all your Reaver Hunters by 1, but if you play another Reaver Hunter on the same round, it's going to boost all your Reaver Hunters by 2, and plus the 2 from this one, which is why Reaver Hunters get crazy strong. People don't really know how much power they're going to get. Next, we have Armor. Armor is something that doesn't count towards your power, but it protects your unit. Like, the armor is going to get taken away before your health does, the power does. So if this thing has, it comes out with 4 armor, so it's going to be a count towards 6 power towards your overall power. It's also going to have 4 armor that if it's in fog, torrential rain, or anything like that, the armor is going to get hit first, and it won't change your power value at all. Next we have Lock. Lock will stop the unit that you choose to lock from activating its ability anymore. So if it has a continuous ability and you lock it, then it'll end up making that not happen. Like this spotter, whenever either player reveals a card, boost self by 1 while in your hand, deck, or on your side of the board. So if they have a 16 power spotter out and you lock it, it won't reset it to 4 because it's not a reset, but it will stop it from boosting itself anymore when they reveal more cards. Next we have reset. Reset just means that if it has any boost to power, not strengthened, if it's boosted, then you can reset it and it'll change it back to its original power. So like if you use this guy on a spotter that's like 16 power, he'd actually reset it and damage it by 3, weaken it by 3. Weaken means that it's permanently going to be a 1 power now. Well, unless it boosts itself more. Just, it's going to go down to a 1 strength overall, so if they resurrect it or anything, it's still going to be a 1 strength. And speaking of locking, if they resurrect it, like in the next round, it'll unlock itself. Or if they use something like decoy, it'll unlock itself. Next up, we have Death Wish. Actually, that's not a Death Wish card. There we go. Death Wish. Play a Necker from your deck. This means that at the end of the round, or when it dies, its Death Wish will trigger. So when this thing dies or the round ends, you'll play another Necker from your deck, if you have any more. And whenever an ally consumes a card while this unit is in your hand, deck, or side of the board, boost self by 1. This card is good because you can get up to like 10-11 power, and then at the end of the round it's going to spawn another one, or if they kill it, it'll spawn another one. And that card also says consume. Consume, there are all different types of consume cards. Like this one, consume a random unit from either player's graveyard. Whatever it says with consume, to consume the unit to the right, that means that you'll eat that card, which will make it so your opponent can't resurrect it or anything. Then it'll boost itself by whatever that card's power was. Now there is one exception to that, and that's this Grave Hag. After 1 turn, at the start of your turn, consume all units in your graveyard, but only boost self by 1 for each. So it'll all consume all the units. That means doesn't mean your spells or your gold cards, because gold cards cannot be affected by either player's card effect. So besides that, it'll boost itself by 1 for everything else it eats, and it'll literally like banish everything in your graveyard. And last we got things like the Operator. It's stubborn and it's doomed. That means doomed means that if it goes to your graveyard, can't be resurrected by your cards, I'm pretty sure. And stubborn, see, this is a card effect that they don't really tell you. But stubborn means that you can't use things like decoy on it and do its effect again, or basically target it with anything. But your opponent can target it with cards. Just you can't target it with any of your cards. So that's what stubborn means, I think, is that you can't target it with any of your cards. But you can boost it still. So I mean, it's just like with things like decoy or resurrecting it. Same with right here, the Priestess of Freya. You can't resurrect it from your graveyard or anything unless you discarded it to your graveyard. But if it dies, you can't play Priestess of Freya, resurrect a Priestess of Freya, and then resurrect something else. It's not targetable once it's in the graveyard. So that's what doomed means, and stubborn must mean that you can't target it with things like decoy, but you can still target it with things like the potions and stuff. So it's just random cards that they decide you can't target it with. You probably have to figure that one out. Pretty much the only problem I ran into it with is with decoy and returning to my hand to play it again. But you can do that with Priestess of Freya. You can decoy that, return it to your hand, and play it again and resurrect something else. But that's about it for this video. And one last thing that I guess it's sort of like an effect, is these Shield Maidens damage a unit by 2 if it was already damaged. Play a Kryllan Drunmun Shield Maiden from your deck. If a boosted unit gets damaged, it has to be damaged past its original power. You'll actually see the number in the top left turn red, and that means that it's damaged. and then you can activate this effect on it. If you hit something like a 16 boosted unit with a thunder and did 7 damage to it, and then you try to activate your shield maintenance effect, it wouldn't work because it's boosted, so it technically is still above its original power, which means it's not damaged at all. And that's about it for the video, guys, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Hope you enjoyed.